Okay, I should be live right now. Can you guys hear me? I'm gonna wait until someone says that they can hear me. Okay, so you guys can hear me just fine. How's my microphone level and everything? Because I haven't set this up since 6 months ago, since my last stream. Okay, okay, good. I hit 250,000 subscribers Friday night, um, and so I set this up to do a Q&A. I put up a survey for all of you. Well, not all of you. Like 600 of you took it, which was way more than I was expecting. Um, the last time I did a survey in June, uh, well, I only had like 8,000 subscribers, so 100 people took it. Now I have considerably more. And the last time I did a live stream, I had like maybe 3,000, 4,000. So this is quite a different experience, seeing the chat going crazy like that. So what I thought I would do, this is a uh, Q&A. Since the last Q&A, I only had, yeah, 7 or 8,000, and I did it edited instead of live like this. So what I have set up here, here's all the questions that were sent in through the survey. Um, so what I'll do is I have a random number generator that, I'll pick a question and read it. There's quite a few duplicates and stuff in here too, so if it's a question that I've already answered, then I'll probably skip it, and then I'll switch back and forth between this and your live questions. So hopefully that works out. We'll see, I suppose. But 232 was, what would I change about the American school system? um, See, we're already jumping in the deep end here. I would probably get rid of charter schools. I've worked at 2 charter schools, and they were for profit, um, and quite poor, meaning their test scores were awful. So I would probably get rid of charter schools, um, or at least limit them somehow. Like, not all charter schools are bad, but a significant number are. So I would fix that. If you want to go to a private school, then go to a private school. But the public schools need to be improved, and making charter schools just takes away money from public schools. So that's what I would get rid of. Someone asked, where is Wheatley? If you didn't know, Wheatley passed away in June. He was about 7 years old, so that's about average. Um, but now I have Peabody and Atlas, which are both um, portal names. So yeah, and they're asleep right now. I ran them around all morning so that they wouldn't distract me while I'm doing this. So sorry to start off the live questions with such a bummer. Um, so yeah, he died of a insulinoma. So his blood sugar was basically in the toilet. Uh-oh. Everyone's saying F. Is something going wrong? Everything seems to be working on my end, so. Okay, everyone's saying F, and from what I understand, that means the stream is down. But if it's working, please let me know. Otherwise, everything seems to be working on my end, so yeah, it seems to still be going. So anyway, people are asking for my real name. I don't give that out. I keep my personal life personal. I'm not a vlogger. I'm not a daily streamer. I make educational content and I put it up for you guys, and that's that. My personal life is gonna stay my personal life. You guys can call me Knowing Better, KB, some people, but that's about it. So stop asking for my. Okay. So stop asking for my real name, okay? Because I'm not, or where I live. A lot of people asked where I live, and I'm not giving that information out either. So stop. So 207. Let's see. What Fallout games have I played? I played Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4, and I am looking forward to. Okay, I need to turn this off. And I'm looking forward to 76. So. For those of you who watched my stream with, or the Columbus Day stream, yeah, I was sick. I had a cough. I still kind of do, a little bit, but it's going away, which is good. Let's see, 248. Where am I? I skipped it. 240. Why is your YouTube channel so popular? I have no idea. No idea. Like I said, in June, I had 8,000 subscribers. And I quit my job. I worked in a linen factory. I got the job right after I graduated with my second degree because I needed something to pay the bills while I figured out what I was going to do. And I started the YouTube channel to kind of keep my brain working. And I had 8,000 subscribers. I had just done the crossover collab with Sweeney on the Japan video. And I got up to like 10 or 11,000, and I quit my job. And then it took off. The YouTube algorithm just decided to do it. It was great timing. I just happened to quit my job right before that happened, not knowing it was going to happen, and it took off. The 4K TV video took off quite a bit. Wannabe states. Every day it seemed to be a different video was just being pushed, and I don't know, it blew up. I wasn't expecting it, and every day it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I have no idea why it became so popular. If someone has the answer to that, they'd be a very rich person. Looks like I'm getting some super chats, so of course if you do that, I will read it. Kevin says, I really appreciate what you do. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Kevin. Hope this is not too personal, but Denny's or IHOP? Denny's, I guess. I'm a big fan of diner breakfasts, so yeah. Let's see. Do we have any more questions I can do? Any more live questions? What do I think about the Pittsburgh shooting from Mighty Fighter? I'm not a big fan of Trump. I think I've made that pretty clear. I try to not put that in videos so much anymore. You know, I got a lot of flack for putting Trump jokes in my Japan video. So I'm not a fan of Trump, and I think his rhetoric is inciting people like the Pittsburgh shooter. I don't know what his name was, but reading tweets and news articles and stuff, he was inspired by Trump, and I think we're gonna see quite a bit of that, unfortunately, in the future, along with the pipe bomb mailer, the MAGA bomber. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that, especially as the election rolls around. I got another super chat. What advice would you give me as a student looking to teach in the future? Worried that in 30 years AI may replace teachers. Okay, CGP Grey did a video talking about that, where an AI, I think he called it a digital Aristotle. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think teachers will always kind of have a place, at least. You can't replace the personal interactions. I mean, certain things AIs will be able to do, but if you just don't get it, it always helps to have at least a good teacher. I don't know if all teachers are good, but yeah, I wouldn't worry that AIs are going to take over. My worry is that because of the atmosphere in the American education system right now, a lot of the good teachers leave. Some stay, but a lot of them leave, and we end up with like a negative survivorship bias, I suppose. And that's unfortunate, but I don't think an AI is gonna take over. Wow, I'm getting more super chats than I'm able to answer real quick. Steven says, keep up the good work, thank you. What is your education? Also, hello from Italy. I have a bachelor's degree in secondary social studies education with an emphasis on world history, modern world history, so World War I to now. I taught junior high and high school history, government, economics, psychology, geography, and then I went back to get my second degree in psychology, and I focused on cognitive psychology, so how the brain processes information and how it thinks. So not so much disorders or developmental. I worked in an EEG lab. We were testing resting frontal asymmetry, which is very complicated. It's there is some truth to the "are you left brain or right brained" myth that we've always had, but it has nothing to do with whether you're creative or analytical. It has more to do with approach or avoidance behaviors. Yeah, so that's what we were doing. Let's see, what else do I have? Much love from Nova Scotia. I don't agree 100% of what you talk about, but I respect the neutrality and how you present the facts. This is something I've actually wanted to address for a while. I don't want subscribers that agree with me 100% of the time. That's how you end up with an echo chamber where you just kind of start to believe your own BS. And you just get your own opinions fed back to you all the time. So thank you for sticking around if you don't agree with me 100% of the time, especially since I have made some videos that not everyone agrees with, subverting the narrative, for example, and the 4K TVs one, which I'll get to that a little later. And I'd rather you disagree and stick around than forget it, unsub. I hate all of your 80-something videos now because you made one that I disagree with. That's not a good way to go about things. Thank you, Alex. You didn't say anything. Why does it look like you still live in the okay. I get comments about either living in a barracks or jail cell all the time. I don't. The outer wall of my apartment is brick, which kind of creates this echo effect, which sucks. But I don't live in a barracks. I live in an apartment. Yeah, I don't know. It's an apartment. There's nothing. It's not a jail. It's not a barracks. Now I messed up my camera. Okay. I live in an apartment. It was built in the 70s. The outer wall is brick. I don't know what to tell you. Love your love your channel. What's it like to serve in the army? Not asking for super personal. What's it like? I answered this in my Q&A. It was for me. It was a lot like being in the Night's Watch for like Jon Snow. My dad was in the military. I grew up around the military. My grandpa was in the military. So I joined thinking like I'm doing something really epic and important for my country. And I showed up, and a lot of the people there weren't quite like what they weren't all like me, I guess. And I'm not saying I'm super special or anything, but I had an ROTC scholarship. I was in college. My whole life was going to be the military, and a lot of the people there were there because they couldn't do anything else, or in very few cases were there because judges ordered them to be. So it's not fantastic. You know, I'm of the Top Gun generation, where Hollywood had kind of built up the military to be this awesome thing, and it didn't necessarily pan out that way. I'm sorry, I'm like really slow here on the super chats. Apologies. Can you? Okay, everyone wants me to make fun of Pyro Cynical. So guys, we did it. We reached 250,000 subscribers, 250,000 subscribers, and still going. I do believe we're at like 251, something like that. But yeah, everyone wanted me to make fun of Pyro. Sorry, I know I missed one. Can I do a video on AI from David? Not really. It's not really my specialty, unfortunately. I'm not big into AI. You know, I did some stuff with self-driving cars because I got a degree in cognitive psychology. So I know how difficult it is to get a computer to see. Yeah, I am looking at a webcam right now, but the webcam doesn't know what it's looking at. Rudimentary, it can do faces and stuff like that, but it doesn't know what any of these other things are. It can't identify objects very well. That self-driving car that like 9 months ago actually hit and killed someone, it recognized that that was a person and still hit him, which was unfortunate but not unexpected. Keep up the great work, from Ryan. Thank you. Someone asked, let's see, studying erudite. What are your favorite educational YouTube channels? This question comes up all the time. Everyone always, wants to know. I'm a big fan of Soph's Notes. Everyone knows that. I wish she would put out content a little more often. Is Exerbia in the chat? No, he isn't. No, I don't see him. I am a fan of Exerbia. Wish he would put out more content. Tierzu, obviously, big fan. Mr. Beat. Anybody who I have worked with or have had voice of video, I'm a big fan of. Recently, I made a recent discovery of Do Not Eat One. He does city skylines videos, where he talks about urban planning, using city skylines, and it's awesome. Yeah, I definitely recommend watching it. Even if you don't play city skylines, he uses it as a tool to talk about urban planning and what was the one that really got me? Gentrification. I never quite understood what gentrification was until he explained it. Great channel. Definitely recommend. Okay, all right. Let me get back to the random questions. Wow, it seems to be stuck on the 230s. Can you show us a picture of you as a baby? It would take me very long to dig one up. I'd have to go through my Facebook and stuff. Um, so no. 117. Oops, dang it. 117. What's my favorite video game of all time? StarCraft. Some of you might have noticed in the background. Uh, that's StarCraft art there. Um, sorry. I set this up so that I wouldn't have to mess with it. Okay. Okay, opinion on furries. I don't have an opinion. If you want to dress up like an animal, that's fine. I understand that they've had some, they usually, there's like a sexual connotation to them. But I don't care. Everyone has their thing, right? Wow. Have I had any backlash from Scientology people? No, I have not. I have um, a few ex-Scientologists have reached out to me on Facebook and stuff to thank me for the video because they thought um, that it was really good and I was the first one to explain it without making fun, stuff like that. Do I have a DD-14 from abortions? Okay. Yes, of course I have a DD-214. That's what you get when you get out of the Army, that lists all of your awards and stuff. So yes, I do have one. Human First. Thank you very much. That is quite the donation. Wow. From Q Victoria. Why didn't I join as an officer instead of an enlisted? I suspect your experience would have been quite different from that. Okay, so out of high school, I got an ROTC scholarship, which was contingent on me simultaneously joining the National Guard. So I was in ROTC as a cadet, and I was in the National Guard at the same time. So I was both, I suppose. 3 years in to my ROTC, or 2 years, I guess? 2.5, something like that. 2 or 3 years in, I decided I didn't want to do ROTC anymore, but I couldn't get out of the National Guard. And it's through the National Guard that I was deployed to Iraq. And that was the end for me. I didn't want to re-up or anything. I had always planned on being in... I had always planned on being a teacher after my Army experience. And 2 years into my first degree, I decided, why don't I just be a teacher now? So I changed my major and all of that. From David, was Wheatley your first ferret? No. I had a ferret before him named Oliver. He died when he was 5 or 6. And then I got Wheatley, who was about 7. Now I have Peabody and Atlas. I would show you them, but they're asleep, and if I wake them up, it's like a baby. Like you wait all day for them to go to sleep, and now they're asleep, so I'm not waking them up. From Yellow Camel, do you have any tips on how to stop procrastinating? No, I don't. I'm a terrible procrastinator. It's bad sometimes. From Epistemologically, what is your view on the historical existence of Jesus? He was a historical figure, and he lived. What's up for debate is whether he's the Son of God, but he was definitely a real person. So, am I married? No, I'm not married. Am I making a video on Jehovah's Witnesses? From Ramon Santos? No. My video on eschatology was about as deep into Jehovah's Witnesses as I'm going to get. I mean, maybe someday, but I'm not actively working on one right now. Oh, okay. All right. So another related question: have I gotten any backlash from any videos that made me reconsider my position on any topics? Not really. There's been some that I regret how I phrased things, and I have made small mistakes here and there. In my Columbus video, I said that LBJ was the president 40 years ago when it wasn't. Um, so I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's just me. It's a one-man show. I don't have a writer or an editor. It's just me. So unfortunately, mistakes happen. So the 4K TVs video, right? The 4K TVs video was a video on vision. Okay? I used TVs, and I even say this in the beginning. I use TVs as a way to deconstruct vision in order to talk about vision. Um, if I talked about acuity and retinal firing rates, not everyone's going to understand what that is, but everyone knows what resolution and frame rates are. So I took those to talk about vision. That was the whole point of that video. It was number 2 of 4 on my series of vision. So that's what it was. Now, do I talk about TVs? Do I talk about old resolutions and media, VHS, DVD, Blu-rays? Yes, I talk about those things to build up so that people know the vocabulary of what I'm about to talk about. But that was the point of the video. So if you came out of that saying, "Oh, he thinks that 4K TVs are stupid. He's a technology denier. He can't see. He needs to fix his eyes." Blah blah. If that's what you came out of that video with, you missed the point of the video. So when certain people made responses, it was clear to me in the first 30 seconds that they had no idea what the point of the video was, and that I'm not going to respond to that. So I understand that a high-profile person made a video. I watched it. His anecdotes about him and his brother being able to tell the difference in frame rates, that doesn't debunk the science of the stuff I listed in the description, which he shows in the video. He goes through them, and then later he's like, "Oh, he didn't back this up with sources," when he shows the source. Anyway, I don't want to get into it. I've missed quite a few super chats now, so I need to scroll back up to look. Am I still planning on making a video on Mormons? Maybe someday. I just did 2 religion videos, so I kind of want to move on from that. Would I do a video on race and IQ? It's okay. This one is from Dando. Okay, Dando. Would I do a video on race and IQ? And the answer to that is no. Not in the way that you might want, anyway. I've thought about it several times, but there's just no way to say what I want without getting all of the white nationalists involved, and I don't want to do that. So that's just one of those topics that I think I'm going to leave alone just because of how toxic it is. Sorry, now I need to catch back up. What's your favorite episode to do so far? I really liked the Scientology one. I enjoyed that a lot. I watched like a dozen documentaries on Scientology, and none of them did what I wanted. They would either make fun of Xenu or talk about the abuses, which are important, but it wasn't. They didn't explain it quite like I would have hoped, so that's why I made one. Do a video on nuclear fusion or fission. There's plenty of science channels that would happily do that stuff for you. I'm not a science channel, unfortunately, so I'm sorry. I know I alluded to doing it once in my Dapple video, but I feel like that topic's kind of above what I'm capable of. From Christian, hi, any opinion on this whole Space Force stuff? It's stupid. Space Force isn't going to happen. When the Air Force was created, it was already a huge part of the Army, so it made sense to spin that off. We don't have a Space Force to spin off, so it's stupid. It's just a way for him to get more publicity, I guess. Since I consider myself from Kobob S12, since I consider myself a moderate, what topics do you take to heart as your core, and what you consider your stance on them as moderate? We're gonna get controversial here. A lot of people ask that in my questions as well. Stuff about you seem more like a leftist. What are you actually moderate on? But then, people. I made a Columbus video where I defend Columbus. I don't think he's a great guy, but he's also not this terrible demon and monument to colonialism that people seem to want him to be. So, I also made a video that was pro DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline, because pipelines are the safest and most efficient way to move oil from point A to B. I wish we weren't using oil anymore. I'm very anti-fossil fuels, but if we are going to use it, pipelines are the way to go. So those issues, I'm definitely not a leftist, and not everyone on the left is a fan of me because of some of those views. But I definitely am more moderate. I'm center-left, I would say, probably. But I'm not a centrist. I'm not one of those centrist YouTubers that isn't gonna take a position on anything, but is actually kind of a little bit fashy. So I'm not gonna name names here, but you should know who I'm talking about. I don't claim to be a centrist. I am a moderate leftist, I would say. So there's that. Okay, I don't know what currency SEK is, but that is a very large number. So thank you, Thomas. Any chance on a video on the Israel and Palestinian history from 1900 onwards? I made a video called Constantinople, Not Byzantium, and the Rest of the Middle East, where I talked about that briefly. I kind of talked more about the Sykes-Picot Agreement, but going into Israel is another one of those topics that no matter how I do it, it's going to be toxic, and I'm just going to bring out the worst people. And not every topic needs to be... I feel like that's a topic that's been covered a lot. Just for the record, I planned on this being 1, maybe 2 hours. Probably 2 at this rate. So I'm going to need to drink water on occasion. Sorry. Thoughts on Scottish independence? If Brexit actually happens, which I'm starting to think it won't, it seems like they're calling for another referendum. If it happens, I kind of up the chances on Scottish independence, as well as Irish reunification. I think Irish reunification is going to happen. It's just a matter of time, really. Climate change video from NW Carnelli. I'm not going to do a climate change video. I mean, climate change is real, and if you don't think that, you need to look into it. But that's another one of those topics that I feel has been done a lot. I mean, even people like Thunderfoot have been doing climate change videos, and Potholer54. A lot of the current day centrist skeptics started off by doing climate change and flat earth debunking videos before they started Potholer is still good. But the centrist skeptics started to move to bashing feminism instead. So that's a topic that has been overdone, I think. And I don't do topics that I don't think I can bring something new or do it differently. So that's why I did Scientology, was because I thought I could bring a new perspective to it. But I'm not just gonna retread old ground. What next video titles are you planning? 2 or 3? My next video is a moderate's guide to voting. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for or how to vote. It's similar to immigration and gun control. I'm going to talk about issues around voting. So voter ID and felony disenfranchisement and gerrymandering, stuff like that. So that's the next video. I have a list of other video topics. I don't know what the next one is going to be, but yeah. From Froki, opinion on the Armenian genocide. It happened. Turkey should acknowledge that it happened. Similar to Japan and Nanking, stop denying that it happened. You know, that's, yeah. From Shelley Henry, who do you think is really behind the mail bombs and the caravan of immigrants, and why are they doing it? I think that guy, what was his name, Caesar something, he was behind it. He did it because he was encouraged to do so, maybe not directly, but he's behind it. Who's behind the caravan? The people in the caravan. I don't think that there's some grand conspiracy to bring migrants in. I don't think that's a George Soros, Hillary Clinton, Democrat thing. That's kind of silly. It's just people wanting to get away. By the way, the migrant caravan, there's nothing illegal about that. They're coming to request asylum, which is both U.S. and international law. They're allowed to do that. That's not illegal. So stop saying that. From Michelle Givens, thank you for the super chat. Are there any topics that you will not touch on? Yes, there are. People have asked me multiple times to do a video on transgender issues. I'm not transgender, and I feel like there are plenty of people more capable of doing that than me. Like ContraPoints does a very good job. So I won't talk about LGBT stuff, because I think there are plenty of LGBT people much more capable of doing that. I just realized I'm watching some guy talk on his computer instead of watching football. I stopped watching football a long time ago. It kind of lost its appeal for me. Your videos are awesome and changed my perspective in a number of ways. Thanks. From Edward. Thank you for that. That's kind of the point. Maybe not to get you to change your perspective, but to get you to think about your own perspective and maybe why you have that perspective. I'm not able to just change everyone's mind. And that's not my goal. I don't want to change minds. I want to get you to think about stuff and change your own mind, maybe. From Human First, what about Jung? I mean, he was an important early psychological figure, like Freud, but he was much more abstract. A certain Jordan Peterson loves Jung. I'm not, some of his ideas are worth pondering, but you can't base your worldview on Jungian archetypes. Like that's just not a good idea, I don't think. From Matt, have you had much backlash from the Scientologist video? Everyone keeps asking this, and I answered it a little bit ago. No, they haven't they're not fair gaming me as far as I know. They're not digging in my trash or stalking me. They don't seem all that interested, which is good. Thank you. What's your opinion on the Electoral College? Get rid of it, I think. I understand the utility of it, but I think it's an idea whose usefulness has long since passed. And I've talked about this before, but I kind of feel the same way about states in general. States were a good idea when you were born, lived, and died in the same state. And moving states was fairly rare. But now, say you live in a state that doesn't have legal marijuana, just get in your car, and 20 minutes later, you're in a state that has it, and whatever, or other things, abortion, or alcohol, or gay, well, not now, but a few years ago, gay marriage. The fact that I can get on a metal tube and teleport to one side of the country and back in the same day. I think the idea of states being kind of super independent is an idea that's long since passed. They're useful for administrative purposes, but we're American now, so yeah. How does that relate to the Electoral College? I don't think that the smaller states need to be protected from the bigger states, which was the point of the Electoral College 250 years ago. But I think the popular vote is fine, or at the very least, and I'm going to talk about this in my voting video, at the very least, Electoral College votes should be divided proportionally. So, say you live in a state where the vote goes 60-40, then 60% of your Electoral College votes should go, to that person, 40% to the other, rather than all or nothing. 51%, and you get 100% of the Electoral College votes for that state. I think that's a bad system. Could one local government, from David, could one local government or state rig an election without the Electoral College? And do you admit that corruption? Of course corruption exists. Could one local government rig an election? Probably not, no. Could a state? On some scale, perhaps. Maybe Florida did some shady stuff for Bush v. Gore. But I don't think they could, mass rig it anymore, anyway. In some states, the electors, the people who go to the Electoral College, are not bound to vote for the person that their people chose. So they could rig it that way. All the electors could go and vote for whoever they wanted instead. And that could be rigging, I suppose. But I don't know that they would be able to get away with something too blatant these days. From Riles, speaking of marijuana, Canada recently passed laws to allow for recreational use. Do you have any opinions on that? I mean, I don't care what Canada does. I'm not Canadian, so I'm not going to be like, Canada, you shouldn't do that. They can do what they want. They can set their own laws. Yeah. My personal view on marijuana, I mean, if you want to do it, fine, but stop acting like there's no downside to it, because of course there are downsides to it. It affects you much longer than a few hours, days or weeks even. It has an effect, and it has negative effects as well. So stop oh, it's totally natural and it's fine, and is it safer than alcohol? I don't... Certainly short term it is, but long term it has some effects. It's not purely safe. So sorry. Thoughts on British and French colonialism? We can't undo the past. It sucks that it happens, or happened, but I can't undo it. What do you think about the migrant caravan? I kind of addressed that one already. They're not coming here illegally. They're looking for asylum, which is fine. Knowing better video on McCarthyism, about the time period, avoiding falling into it in today's political climate. I'm trying to get through these quick because like I can see the timers on super chats going away, so I'm sorry if I miss one. I'm getting a lot of super chats. So a video on McCarthyism that has been on the list for a long time. Yeah, I'm not going to show you the list, but it's been on there for a while. What do you know about Freemasons? Would you do a video on that? That might be worthwhile doing, but there's a lot of conspiracies about Freemasons. So when it comes to that, I'd have to. The heck was that? Okay. I don't know much about Freemasons other than the conspiracy stuff, so I'm not sure. I'd have to dig into it, much like I did with Scientology. So it's not impossible, but. Ooh, okay. From Yellow Camel, I can add 3 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. What do they do? I make the Electoral College proportional. So like I said earlier, if it's 60-40, then 60% and 40% of your Electoral College votes rather than all or nothing. What else would I do? Man, that is a tough question. 3 amendments. I mean, I don't know if I could just write an amendment that says states don't matter anymore, but I feel like because of how interconnected we are in our country now, we have the 14th Amendment, which says that everyone is afforded equal protection under the law. So, and that's what made gay marriage legal in all states rather than just a few. So, if we're gonna, yeah, I try to make states more equal. There's that. I'd also get rid of felony disenfranchisement, which is going away on its own, but I would put it in the Constitution so that they can't bring it back. Yeah, I'm gonna talk more about felony disenfranchisement in my next video, so I don't want to spoil too much here. Let me get caught up with the chat. I mean, I'd be for the popular vote being what elects the president, but a proportional electoral college would accomplish the same. It would be close enough anyway. I'm not going to do a video on nuclear fission. I'm sorry, that's beyond my area of expertise. Will I vote in the midterms? Of course I will vote in the midterms. Vote. Like, if you learn nothing else from me, just, like, please vote. You don't have to vote for everything. If you go to the polling booth and you're looking at the list and you're like, I have no idea who to vote for dog catcher or whatever it is, you can leave it blank. It's not a test where you can just guess and hope that you got the right answer. You can leave stuff blank. If you look at the list and you're like, I don't know, or care, I don't care who the county treasurer is or whatever, don't vote for that. Vote for the important stuff, though. Please vote. Opinion on the Brazilian election? I don't have one, unfortunately. I'm not. International politics is kind of. I know some things. I know about the UK and I know about Canada, but I don't know enough about Brazil to have an informed opinion. From Ghost01, do you think Twitter, etc., has created a false dichotomy when it comes to how popular certain belief systems are? Only when it comes to like bots and stuff. It may inflate numbers, but I don't think that. No, I don't think there's a false dichotomy. Sorry, that's a complicated question. From Kobob, you said that your day job is boring. What is it? I don't have a day job anymore. YouTube is my job. I quit my job at the end, my linen factory job, I quit that in July, and I've been doing YouTube full time ever since. So, whoa, my chat just bumped. Hold on. Okay, that's a Chinese name, so sorry, Korean name, so I won't be able to read that. But what's your opinion on the inter-Korean summits with Moon and Kim meeting together, being a sub since the Japan video? Cheers from a Korean. I mean, anything that we can do to de-escalate the situation in Korea is fine by me. I would, yeah, anything that brings the two Koreas together. I don't know that full reunification is possible at this point, but not pointing missiles at each other would be nice. I'm all for that. Wow, thank you, Benjamin. Keep up the good work. Love your videos. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Fantastic says vote. Please vote. Please vote. Here's the thing. Democrats always have a very poor turnout for midterms. So sometimes they push stuff that they know Democrats might not vote for in midterm elections so that they pass because they know Democrats aren't going to show up. So please show up. Like, this shouldn't be controversial for me to say. Please show up, especially if you're a Democrat, because Democrats tend to not show up for midterms. So show up. If everyone voted and Republican ideas won, I would accept that. Like, okay, the people voted for a Republican idea, fine. But when Republican ideas only win because you just didn't show up, that makes me mad. Sorry, let me catch back up. Do you think that attraction is solely based on evolution-based criteria? If so, to what extent are we free and not just living predetermined lives? I don't necessarily believe in determinism. Physical attraction is based somewhat on evolutionary-based criteria, but as modern humans, we look at much more. I look at someone's political beliefs, their work ethic, stuff like that, which isn't necessarily evolution-based. So there's that. And I don't believe that we live predetermined lives. I believe there's kind of a, I don't want to say there's a path. There's a trajectory that you're headed down that is based on your previous decisions, but you make choices within that trajectory. I don't believe that it's just a straight line. So, from Mo, would you make a video on why people believe the Jewish conspiracy? I know you did a video on conspiracies before, but I think it's worth it on its own. No, that's another one of those topics that no matter how I come at it, the toxic people would come, and it's not necessarily worth it. And there's other people who have made videos on that, of course. From 5, do you believe that politics and entertainment have merged to a worrying degree? How would you fix that? No. With few exceptions, celebrities getting involved, which is fine. They're free to do that. You're allowed to get involved. But I don't think that they've merged to a worrying degree. Politicians certainly think about their appearance, which is an entertainment idea, I guess, but not to a worrying degree, I don't think. Okay, sorry. Let me kind of been skipping out on the random ones because I'm getting super chats. So 142. What's the best and worst thing about the military in your opinion, as a veteran? That's a tough one. I might have to think about that one. I'm sorry. That one's tough. Let me pull up another one. Dang it. How do I balance work and life? I don't. Very poorly. Very poorly. I'll spend 3 or 4 days working on a video where that's all I do is just focus on the video. Everything else kind of falls to the side. My apartment becomes a disaster during those 4 days. I don't go to the gym. It gets bad. So I need to get better at that for sure. Kyle, which video took the least amount of research and was more of a passion project for you? That's easy. My April Fool's video, top 10 things you need to know about ferrets. There was zero research involved in that whatsoever. It was just a fun, whatever video. No research involved in that at all. Jeez. A video on Brexit to send to Mrs. May, please. I feel like that's been done quite a bit. H-Bomber did a pretty good video on Brexit. I very seriously hope that they will at least allow a revote on that now that people are a little more informed. From Bridge, are you going to make a follow-up on Japanese revisionism, like debunking Japanese conspiracies about comfort women or the Nanking massacre? I rarely revisit ideas unless I have way more to add, and I don't think I have much more to add about the Nanking massacre or Japanese denialism about it. Maybe in the future I might revisit, but not any short-term plans to do so. Wow, thank you, Mr. Winters. Thank you for the videos. Keep on keeping on. I'll be voting Republican, but to me it's not about the party or party lines. As far as turnout, if the D's... that wasn't even meant to be funny. If the D's lose, they should do it gracefully. They project and blame a lot. I think the Republicans do the same thing. We seem to have a very short memory here in America. I remember the Tea Party, and that was totally a reaction to Obama being elected. The Tea Party was... Republicans were just as mad about Obama being elected as Democrats are about Trump. It's happening more, but it happens every time. So I don't think one party is worse than the other when it comes to having rallies and marching because they're angry. Both parties do it. I don't know if they lose, they should do it gracefully. I mean, yeah, we shouldn't riot in the streets, but you're allowed to voice your disapproval. So, from Aaron, have you thought of doing a video on drug cartels? I've noticed they're causing migrant crisis. This is another one of those issues that no matter how I come at it, it's just going to bring out the worst in people. Will I do a video on drug cartels? No, probably not. Not directly. I've missed a few super chats, so let me... If you could switch military and NASA budget, would you? Yeah. Yes, I think we spend way too much on our military. There's the answer to that. What's the worst thing about the military? We spend way too much on our military. Lower it down. For all that we spend, very little of it gets to the people who need it. I did convoy security, and I had to buy a lot of my own stuff. It just doesn't get down to the boots on the ground. It gets spent on F-35s that never get used and stuff. We need to bring our military budget down. Thoughts on Brazil's election? Like I said, I don't know enough about it. I know it's very contentious, and that one of the candidates is like their version of Trump. And if that's who they want, that's who they want. I don't know. I saw John Oliver's piece on it, and I also heard that a lot of Brazilians are mad at him because of it. But he's all I know about it. So, I'm sorry. Okay. This is a lot more active than I thought it was going to be. I don't know how many people are watching. I suppose I will see that later, but sorry, 151. Who are you? I know that's a dangerous question to answer. Why are Americans becoming more explicitly biased or racist? Thank you for your military service. I feel like I've answered the who am I several times at this point. You know, so sorry. Why are Americans becoming more explicitly biased? I think it's... I don't want to blame social media. I think social media gives you what you want. And if you just keep getting more of what you want, you kind of become... You get in your echo chamber. So I think that's what's happening. You only watch people whose opinions you agree with, and that just makes it worse. So 249. What has caused so much growth on your channel the last few months? I don't know. I don't know. YouTube just decided, hey, let's promote this guy, and it happened, and I'm grateful for it. But I have no idea. Here, let me show you guys what happened. Oops. Yeah, there we go. See, so you can see my arrow. Okay, this little bump right here, that's where I quit my job. Okay, so right there in like mid-July, that's when I quit my day job, and I was like, I'm gonna do YouTube full time, and then it fell down a little bit, and I'm like, okay, well that's fine, and then it just took off. I have no idea what caused that at all. I'm happy for it, of course, but I was getting like 10,000 subs a day there, and it was all old videos too. It wasn't like I put out a video that just took off. It was like this bump right here was the Japan video, and then like a week later, it just took off, and I have no idea. Big time the 4K TVs video, and the Wannabe States, but a few of the others as well. Slavery's Scar, I think, did pretty well. Columbus, Out of Context, stuff like that. Those videos did well. They were all old videos, though. So I guess I saw this in the random questions that I got. One of them was, do you have any advice on like beginning YouTubers? And the only advice I can really give you is you don't know how close you are. You never really know. Because had I given up, had I given up right here, and I was like, forget it, I'm not doing YouTube anymore. I had no idea that this was going to happen right after. So you never know how close you are. So keep at it if it's something you really want to do. So, I got some super chats in that time, and I missed a few. Let me go back up. Another person asking about Scientology video. No, I have not gotten any backlash. What are your thoughts on technocracy? Do you think the smartest people should make rules and decisions, or some kind of hybrid with democracy could be better than our actual system? I mean, a technocracy, at least how you're describing it, which, by the way, thank you for the donation, Ed. What you're kind of talking about is a meritocracy, which Neil deGrasse Tyson once said, like, I really wish more scientists were politicians, which is, yeah, of course, I wish more scientists were politicians, but also the reason we have so many lawyers as politicians is because lawyers study the law and politicians make law. You want people who study law to make law. Do I think we should have more scientists, more astrophysicists and biologists and historians and all that in politics? Yeah, I think so. But I see why lawyers are the biggest part of our system right now. Okay, from Mr. Fantastic, for the love of God, answer Froki's question, opinion on Beto. Oh, I'm assuming Beto O'Rourke. And I saw that question being asked multiple times, but I'm also trying to get to the people who have donated, so apologies. But my opinion on him, I'm not sure I have. I mean, I like him more than Ted Cruz, that's for sure. So vote for him if you can. I'm not a fan of Ted Cruz. I'm more anti-Ted Cruz than I am pro-O'Rourke, just because I don't know enough about O'Rourke, because I don't live in a state that gets to vote for him. So, yeah. Oops. Your thoughts on the Khashoggi death? Love how informative your videos are. Love from New Zealand. Thank you. Thank you. My thoughts on the Khashoggi death. I think it's pretty clear that Saudi Arabia is responsible. I don't know whether it was... It's looking like it was directly ordered. So I think there should be sanctions. And of course, the people who did it should be prosecuted. How do you feel about America's involvement in the Second Gulf War so many years later? I was always more for Afghanistan than I was Iraq. I think we've overstayed our welcome. I think we invaded Iraq under false pretenses. Though I will say, Saddam Hussein needed to be removed. So had we invaded with that being the stated goal, like we've got to get this awful dictator out, I probably would have been more for it. But the false weapons of mass destruction and false ties to 9/11, those were not good reasons. Sorry. Love your videos. From Michael. Love your videos. How much time do you spend watching other YouTube channels? Constant. I am always on YouTube. Always. Yeah. Sometimes I'll watch stuff again, or I'll have it on just for background noise. I'm always watching YouTube. Do you think it's important to success of your channel to keep producing content original? Yeah. You know, I don't do live streams. I don't put out vlogs. I won't put out a video if I don't think it's ready. So sometimes it takes me 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes me 3. But yeah, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. It seems to be doing pretty well, and you guys seem to like it. So yeah, it's very important. Baked or mashed potatoes? I like them both. It depends on the situation, I suppose, or on the main meal, I guess. I like them both. Okay, from AV Vision, if you could let anyone in a local race know any one thing to help influence their decision, what would you want them to know? That is tough. I mean, my local races, they're not very high stakes or high profile, so I don't know that I want them to know any one thing. I will say, nationally, a big thing I want people to understand is that I think one of the biggest cons ever pulled on Americans is convincing you that you're middle class when you're not. It's very unlikely that you are. Middle class in America right now is $45,000 a year. So if you don't make $45,000 a year, you're not middle class. It's also very likely that you don't pay any taxes. Like, I mean, Mitt Romney, income taxes. Mitt Romney got in trouble once for saying 47% of Americans pay no income tax, which is true. It varies year to year, but about half of Americans don't pay income tax. You probably don't pay income tax. If you get a refund, you're not paying income tax. Uh, if you have, 2 kids, it's very unlikely that you're paying income tax because you get the tax credits and all of that. You get all of that back. So when you're like, I'm a hardworking tax-paying American, odds are you're not, though. um, and I think more people need to realize that you aren't middle class. Very likely, you're not middle class, and you're probably not paying income tax either. So when politicians are like, we want to lower taxes, it's probably not going to affect you, like, at all. Um, so I think more people need to realize that. Uh, okay, from Chuck Les, what's your most held belief opinion that was later disproved after research? Whew. Wow, that is I've certainly had beliefs that were later reversed. I don't know if research was the reason. Here's one. I used I, I used to be anti-gay marriage like 15 years ago, and then I kind of loosened up, I guess, and I'm for it. I don't know that research is what did it. So I'm trying to think of a video where I've looked something up and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. That's amazing. It's completely DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline. That video, I was like, how can they be building a pipeline through Native American land, blah, blah, and I started to research it. It doesn't go through Native American land, it goes through private land near a reservation, um, but not through it. And then I just started asking myself questions, like how many miles of pipeline do we have in the U.S.? Because they're making this seem like it's huge, like it was a 1,000 miles or something was DAPL, and in America we have like 2 point something million. So like, the more I looked into it, the more I was, the more what I had been hearing was being disproven. Your historic videos are well done. How is the ferret? From Aaron. I have 2 ferrets now. Yeah, I don't know how many times I can announce that, and I apologize. I'm sure you just didn't know. But Wheatley died in June. Now I have 2 ferrets, um, Peabody and Atlas. So from Riles, how much anime do you watch? None. I was never very big into it. I watched Pokemon and I watched Sailor Moon. That was it. My thoughts on China's social credit system? I mean, that's very 1984-ish. I wouldn't be pro that, but I can't tell China what to do. That's I guess that's my big thing. People ask me for international uh, opinions. What are my opinions on Brazil or Canada legalizing weed? Um, I don't. I can't tell other countries what they should be doing. Now, were someone to be like, we want to introduce the social credit system here in America, I'd be very much against that. That seems like a very bad idea. We kind of have it to a certain extent, but that's what happens. Uh-oh, people are saying F again, so let's see. Yeah, it seems to be going okay. America, I'd be very much, yeah, it seems to still be going all right, so. Let me do 1 or 2 of these now. Where am I? Here. Okay. Number 51. What other YouTubers, aside from ones that you've already done collabs with, are you a fan of and would like to work with? Like I said, I like Do Not Eat One. Who else have I recently discovered? Genetically Modified Skeptic. I've worked with him though, but I recently discovered him and I like him a lot as well. 161 or 169. Oops. What's a significant event that has happened in history that you personally dislike? I have a hard time with this one because I can't change the past, right? I'm not a fan of Japanese internment camps, but I understand why they did it. You know, were they to try and do it today, I'd be very much against it, and I would dislike it. I dislike that we did it, but I can't change it. So I guess that was the point of the video, the out of context, how to make bad history worse. I'm not pro-Japanese internment, but I tried to give you the context of why they happened in the first place. So, yeah. And with the context, it makes a little more sense, at least, I think. From Davis, who are the most underrated presidents? That's a tough one. Mr. Beat probably knows more about the presidents than I do. I don't know that I would call them any of them underrated. Certainly, some of them don't get enough credit, but they're the ones I would mention are more modern, and it would just be more divisive. So, from Mo, is money too important in U.S. elections? You know, I don't know that it's too important. I think that we spend too much money on our elections, and I don't know how to stop that either. You know, you can limit contributions to a candidate, but you can't stop me from making a commercial and putting it on TV. And that's where most of the money in elections gets spent, is from political action committees or super PACs running their own commercials, which may or may not be a contribution, depending on how you look at it. They're currently legal, though, and maybe they shouldn't be. From Mr. Fantastic, thoughts on free will? We have it. I don't believe that we are living a deterministic universe or anything. I think you're free to make your own decisions, and blaming it on, you know, the cosmic makeup of decisions past or whatever is a kind of a scapegoat. You have the ability to make your own decisions in life. Maybe those decisions are influenced by your past, but not. I don't think that your course is set already. You know, you make your own decisions. From Aiden, what are your thoughts on Mormons? I sometimes see you bring them up. Sometimes, yeah, okay. So my thoughts on them, they're a religion, just like any other. I don't think they're a cult. I will say that. A lot of people brand them as a cult, and they don't tick all the boxes, or enough of the boxes to be a cult. Scientology is a cult. Jehovah's Witnesses, you could make the argument, since they don't have disconnection the same way that Scientologists do, but they have something similar. So they're kind of on the, you could make the case for Jehovah's Witnesses. Mormons aren't a cult. If you want to stop being a Mormon, you just stop. You just don't go anymore. Maybe your family will be disappointed in you, but that's every religion. There's no like policy within Mormonism that keeps you in. So I don't think they're a cult. I don't see any of their beliefs as being overly negative, at least no more negative than other religions. So, yeah, I I don't have like a negative view of Mormons. From HK, are all bad things in history excusable through context? No, of course not. The Holocaust is inexcusable. I don't, you know, I don't care what reasoning they think they had. Nanking, the Armenian genocide, various things are not excusable. So I've only made, I've made videos on some of those things, but when I make the case of context, it's because of, I think context explains that specific event. So internment camps, while I don't agree with them, there's context there that kind of makes sense for the time. The Niihau incident, where a Japanese pilot crashed on an island, and immediately the Japanese people on the island flipped sides and helped him fight America. That stirred up a lot of worry among people. Now, should that event have been expanded to all Japanese people? Of course not, but I can at least understand why that fear was there, given that it had happened. So, no, not every event in history is excusable through context. No, not even close. So, there's just a few, and I've made videos on those few. So. Sorry, trying to get caught back up. If you're trying to ask me a question and you don't necessarily want to donate, which is fine, please ask me questions. I am going to try to answer the ones where people donate, because obviously. But if you're going to ask me a question, like, tag me in it so that it like highlights for me. From AV Fusion, my leopard gecko is trying to climb on your face. Okay, thanks. Okay, I guess not all donations necessarily come with a question, so. How many subscribers have I been getting per day, because the growth has been insane, man? I average about 1,000 a day now, so yeah. Overwatch or Team Fortress 2? Overwatch now. I used to play Team Fortress 2, but now it's more Overwatch by far. That's the only game that I keep going back to, because I don't have anything at the moment. I'm waiting for Fallout 76. I was thinking about getting Red Dead Redemption, but since Fallout, I've never been burned by a Bethesda game, so. My opinions on the tariffs. Tariffs are stupid. They're stupid. They don't help anything. They just increase the price on a good for Americans. It doesn't increase it for China. The way a tariff works is aluminum. Let's use aluminum. When Chinese aluminum comes here and the president puts a tariff on it, China doesn't pay the tariff. It's whoever is importing the aluminum. So your factory, your car manufacturers, they're paying the tariff, not China. China doesn't pay that. Tariffs. The idea of a tariff is then that the car manufacturer won't buy foreign aluminum; they'll buy domestic aluminum, which they're just not going to do. So it's dumb. Thoughts on the negativity of the 4K video? Like I addressed this in the beginning here. If you came away from the 4K TV video saying that I'm a technology denier or I am not with the times or whatever, I'm an early adopter. I bought one of the first HD TVs when it was 1080i, not P yet. I'm an early adopter, but I understand that there's a ceiling to what's. It doesn't matter. That was a vision video, not a 4K TV video. I used 4K TVs to talk about vision because people know what pixels and resolutions and frame rates are. That's sad. Will I ever do a video on Waco? No, because just like Sandy Hook, it just brings out the worst people, and I'm not going to convince people that their conspiracy theory is false. Will I elaborate on the gay marriage thing? Not to judge you, I just want to hear my opinion and why it changed. That's good. I'll answer that one. You know, when I was younger, I was definitely more conservative. And then I started having I started having more LGBT friends, and I was like, you know, they aren't. I don't know why I was afraid of them in my teenage years, or why I was against them in my teenage years. So kind of as I got older and I got more exposed, I just didn't see the point of being against it. And I realized that a lot of the arguments I had heard previously that were against gay marriage were just kind of dumb. I mean, yeah, fraud, for example. That was a big one, 20 years ago. Like, oh, what would stop two roommates from getting married in order to get the tax benefit? And that just doesn't happen, And so I don't believe in punishing a whole group of people in order to stop something that doesn't really happen. Which is, there's an interesting parallel to voter ID there, but I'll leave that for that video, which will be next week. So, sorry, let me, what are my thoughts on Snowden? I don't know that I have a strong opinion on Snowden. There's a whistleblower argument to be made there, but I'd have to look into it more again, and it's been a while, so. From Mo, is Russia a serious threat or a convenient boogeyman? Both? I think it's a serious threat. I think they are trying to influence elections, which, yes, America has done too, but that, two wrongs don't make a right. Just because we've done it in the past doesn't mean it's okay for Russia to do it now. So yes, they are a threat. I think the biggest threat they pose is that people think they're Americans. With all the Twitter bots and stuff, it was pretty clear. They were using names like 10 GOP for the Tennessee GOP. And people thought they were the Tennessee, Republican Party when they're not. So I think that's the biggest fear, really, is that they're convincing people that they're Americans, and they're kind of getting Americans to fight each other, which is bad. From Panic Boy, you remind me of Socrates speaking to the young. I don't know that I'm as wise as Socrates. I'm a regular guy. The difference between me and you is that the YouTube algorithm randomly decided that I should be seen. And maybe I have more practice video editing, I guess. I don't know. But I'm just a regular guy. I'm not some genius. Yeah. From a deer, thanks for streaming. Have a great day. Also, what is your opinion on deer? I'm not a hunter. And I don't know that I have a strong opinion on deer. I realize that's a silly question, but yeah. What's my favorite, or what's the best Fallout? I think 4. The story in 4 leaves a little to be desired, but I like all the mechanics and all of that. I really liked 4. I played 4 a lot, which is why I'm looking forward to 76, because it's basically just 4, but online. I was a little worried when they said it was going to be online, But from what I've seen now, it seems like they're handling it pretty well. So, from Puppethead, what is the bigger threat, China or Russia? Economically, China. Politically, Russia. Can you make a series of videos about the education systems in first world countries? A video that this was the very first question I answered, I think. I've wanted to do a video on charter schools and school choice. That's something that PragerU pushes a lot, school choice. All that does is bleed the public schools dry. So I've thought about doing at least American education. I've written scripts for it and then abandoned them because I just, yeah. Do I like to watch Vox from Aiden? I catch a video every now and then, but they kind of have this holier-than-thou tone to them, which they get made fun of all the time for. But they're not terrible. They're not as bad as like BuzzFeed or something. Sorry, let me catch. Okay, from Mr. Fantastic, should trolls who argue points in bad faith deserve to be heard on college campuses? They deserve to be heard, but there's no obligation to allow them to be heard. You know, we have free speech. You're allowed to say what you want, but you're not. The First Amendment doesn't afford you a platform, you know. So, yeah. And if they're a troll who argues in bad faith, I can think of a few. Milo comes to mind, of course. Yeah, I don't think that they're allowed to be heard, but they shouldn't be afforded the megaphone. From Danny, what do you think of the media influencing copycatting? I mean, yeah, that happens. I don't know. The news is going to report the news, right? That's going to happen. I don't know that they should be, saying the guy's name, putting his picture everywhere. To a certain extent, I understand why they do that. You want to know who did something, and in this case, specifically with the bomber, the male bomber, it was important because there were conspiracy theories going around about this being a false flag and all that. So it was important to say, no, it's actually this guy. So there's that. I don't know that they should talk about it constantly because that does fuel the desire to be famous. So mention who it was and then kind of drop it, I guess. I don't know enough about who committed the Pittsburgh thing since we just found out about that yesterday, I think it was. So I haven't had enough time to kind of dig in on that. Okay, here's a good question. What are your thoughts on mandatory voting? I've gone back and forth on this over time. I think you should vote. If we're going to make it mandatory, then it should be mail-in, much like the census or something. But making it mandatory, I don't know. I don't know that I'm completely for mandatory voting. But you should vote. Please vote. Sorry, I have to scroll down here a bit. What about Ben Shapiro? Do I like him? No. He argues in bad faith. He's one of those people that we were talking about earlier that argues in bad faith. He's very slick. He debates well, but he argues in bad faith. From Max, why do good girls like bad guys? I don't know that they do. Maybe younger, in your teenage years, early 20s, um, there's a propensity to like risk takers. So, I mean, I don't know that they're bad boys necessarily, but they take risks. They're confident and they take risks. Certainly, as you get older, females, as they get older and want a family, they stop liking those riskier people. Am I on Reddit a lot? Yes. I always have Reddit open as well as YouTube. Opinion on 4chan. I'm not a big fan of 4chan. I mean, it's a forum, just like anything else, but they've kind of allowed a breeding ground to the hate, and I think that's made it a lot worse. Any favorite podcasts? The only podcast I listen to currently is A Piece of String, because there's a person in that who I enjoy listening to. Sorry, let me get. Would I ever run for president? No, I don't want that kind of attention. I'm kind of uncomfortable with the attention I am already getting. And that was actually one of the questions in the list here. I'd have to find it, but I remember seeing that and thinking, oh, that's a good one. But it was how is I'll have to paraphrase it here, but it was, how is running a channel with 250,000 subscribers different from 1,000? I haven't done anything necessarily different, but the pressure is definitely there. If I make a mistake, thousands of people are going to tell me about it. And I'll hear about it for years, apparently. Like, people still correct me on videos from 2 years ago, which is fine, I get it, but when I'm looking through my comments and it's like, oh, yes, I know, I flipped East and West Florida. I know, thank you. Stop. So any little mistake I make, and people will just keep telling me about it. So the difference between 1,000 and 250,000, I know way more people are watching, so there's a lot more pressure on me to get it right and make sure every little thing is right. So that's the biggest difference. I haven't done anything different other than that. My editing style is still the same with the words coming in off the side. I'm gonna change the font here soon, because everyone hates my font. That Poor Richard, that's what that is. People have hated on that since the beginning. So I'll probably change that here soon. From Wiley231. Sorry, I was reading it in my head and I realized I should have read it out loud. What's a video you had a script ready and even recorded footage, but ended up scrapping? I've never scrapped a video that was recorded. The eschatology video, I recorded it, the whole thing, and then saw that there was something on my lip, like dry skin or something. So I deleted it all and re-recorded it. I've never scrapped a video that was recorded. Scripts, though, yes, I have. Let's see if I can find any. I don't know. I might. Here it is. Okay. Back almost a year ago now. I don't even know how far into it I got. Yep, here it is. I started to write a script on YouTube drama. This was back during Grade A, Under A, and Leafy, and all that. I wasn't going to get into the drama. I wasn't going to start getting back and forth on it, but it was a video about why we like drama. So why MTV and the Discovery Channel switched from doing music and science to just doing reality shows. And I was going to make the argument that YouTube is going through the same thing, because there used to be not a lot of people remember this, but there used to be a YouTube.edu rather than a YouTube.com. And it was specifically for schools, only educational content, and they did it in 2011 or 2012, and then they scrapped it. And then 2016, Grade A Under A, Leafy, Drama Alert, all of these were the most popular channels. So I was going to kind of draw parallels between Discovery Channel and cable TV to YouTube, and why we like drama. I later used elements from that script for my gossip and the physical attraction videos. So it later morphed, but I've written scripts that I've scrapped before. Like I said, I also did one on charter schools and education, and ended up just dropping that as well. But once it's filmed, I'm gonna make it. So okay, people are asking what happened to the Cold War video. I've taken videos down for two reasons in the past. Either I no longer agree with what was said in the video and I took it down, or I've redone the topic more in depth. So gun control, I did that. There's a few others where I did taxes. I've done taxes several times. And the Cold War video was kind of a brief overview of everything. And I've since taken those topics out, Pearl Harbor, Nanking, stuff like that, and done them more in depth. So I didn't necessarily think that the video needed to be up anymore. So yeah, that's kind of one of the bigger reasons for that. Yes, okay, so sorry, reading it in my head again. From Grant, you imply that nothing makes you special, and mention the attention being uncomfortable. Are you familiar with imposter syndrome? And yes, I'm very familiar with imposter syndrome, and I have it. I definitely have it. I've like they announced ThinkerCon a little bit ago, and I'm one of the featured creators going to ThinkerCon, and that just makes me so nervous to think that I am like someone, because I don't necessarily feel like it, but I guess that's a good thing. If I ever start to buy my own BS, I mean, that's what happened to Logan Paul, and the various other people who end up doing crazy stuff and think that nothing's going to happen to them, and of course nothing does happen to them, but they start to believe that they deserve all the attention, I guess, and I don't. So hopefully I won't end up going crazy and doing some crazy stuff. Oh, thank you, Anthony, for the straight-up donation. Why? Okay, so people keep asking, why don't I like Ben Shapiro? And it's because I don't think he's... Ben Shapiro has an agenda. I mean, most people do, right? But he has an agenda, and he crushes libs through logic and facts, and he's not... I don't think he's doing it in good faith. I think he's doing it just to kind of push his brand more. So that's why I don't like Ben Shapiro. I also don't agree with him politically, so that's probably a big part of it. Okay, from Adrian. My business email is in the about section on my page, so you're gonna have to find that. Wow, I'm getting so many. there's so many people watching and asking me questions, and I feel like I'm not getting to them fast enough. I don't care about T-Series or PewDiePie. I don't care. From Connor, what's your opinion on Marxism and socialism? I mean, Marxism is kind of an extreme version of socialism. I don't know that I agree with all of Marxist philosophy. Socialism, on the other hand, I mean, other countries have more socialism than we do in the United States, and they're doing all right. Most Western European countries have some socialism, and they're fine. They don't turn into wastelands or anything. They're getting along fine. And I think we could borrow some of those ideas. Yeah, that's my opinion. Sorry. Now my voice is starting to go out. We've been doing this for 2 hours. 150. Will I do more historical character analysis videos? A lot of people wanted me to do Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Hitler. I'm not going to do Hitler. But a lot of people, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Lincoln even, because he was a racist. No, I said when I made Columbus and Gandhi, I had already picked that I was going to do these two people. So I was like, I'm just going to do one bad guy and one good guy and leave it at that because I don't want it to. Maybe someday in the future I'll kind of do more, but yeah, I have no intention of doing Mother Teresa or any of the other ones. So. Good question. How long do I have to watch the ads for you to get credit for them? It varies depending on the length of the ad. If you skip, like if it's a 30-second ad and you skip it, I don't get anything. If it's like a 5-minute ad, I think you only have to watch a minute or something. But the more you watch, the more I get out of it, I guess. What are some favorite childhood memories? I mean, I remember exploring more, riding my bike around the neighborhood alone. Kids these days don't have enough freedom, I think. The helicopter parenting and all that. Like, it would be unheard of to just let your kid go play in the woods, which is what I did. So I used to really enjoy that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't want to take up too much time here by talking about childhood memories. So, did you ever watch Penn and Teller's BS series? Yes, I love it. In fact, I own all of them on DVD. Are you part of that legacy? I guess maybe. Your topics aren't just educational, but exposing previously assumed notions similar to Adam Ruins Everything, but less flawed or could be. I mean, there's certainly a place for people like Adam, and I don't think he. I really like the Some More News. I like Cody. I think he's great. But I think when it comes to Columbus, anyway, which is what I went after them for, they heard a story and they wanted to tell that without digging into it too much. They didn't do all the research on it, I guess. And they end up repeating a lot of stuff that we kind of already know. So there's certainly a place for them. I don't necessarily want to be a debunking channel, which is why I don't do stuff like that all the time. I think the last time I did it was for immigration. That was the last time I pulled up Oh, I did the party switch also, where I debunked PragerU, but immigration, I brought up some videos to debunk. I don't necessarily always want to debunk, but it's useful to get ahead of the straw man argument. Like, oh, you're just arguing against, some straw man. When instead I can be like, here is a massive YouTube channel saying this. I'm not debunking a straw man. Here's an actual person saying it. Now you can say, oh, Prager doesn't count, but millions of people think Prager does count, so that's why I do that. But I don't necessarily want to do it all the time. I didn't for Scientology, I didn't for eschatology, so I might do it a little bit for this voting video, but I haven't found like any like good single videos to debunk. So, will you make a video on the history of mathematics and the effect of math, the sciences on geopolitics? Okay, wow. Probably not, since math isn't my strong suit. If you want a good math channel, I recommend Tibby's. Big fan of Tibby's. She's recently started doing Bob Ross impressions, which are hilarious. And Up and Atom, she does a lot of math stuff. You can ask them to do a history of math video, and I would be, if either of them are watching, I'd be interested in working with you on that. But me alone, no. Did you hear about what happened to Cracked? Yes. In fact, after I made that Columbus video, like 10 days later, Cracked shut down. And I know it had nothing to do with me, but it was kind of fun to joke about it on Twitter that I had something to do with it. Doffy, I'm not even going to read your question. Get out of here with that garbage. No, I won't. That's that. From Oliver, really appreciated your video on DAPL. Really good info that I couldn't find elsewhere. Would you support UBI, Universal Basic Income? Would you support ranked choice voting? Yes to both. So for those of you who don't know what Universal Basic Income is, it would be everybody gets a certain amount from the government. Let's just to throw a number out there, $1,000 a month. Is $1,000 a month enough to live off of? No. No, it's not. But $1,000 a month would cover welfare. We could get rid of all forms of welfare, all of them. Food stamps, WIC, we could get rid of all that stuff. Unemployment. We wouldn't have to pay unemployment anymore because everyone is getting $1,000 a month. We could roll Social Security into that, and I think even $1,000 a month is more than Social Security. It depends. It depends, I guess. But we could roll all these systems that we already have into one and save money. Universal Basic Income would be good. And they're trying it in some places to find out if it's good. So I support the idea because it would be cheaper than what we already have and eliminate so many programs that we use that are kind of redundant. Yeah, it would be a good idea. Do I support ranked choice voting? Yes. Also yes. And that's one of the things that I bring up, or will be bringing up in the voting video that comes out next week. Ranked choice voting, for those of you who don't know, instead of, you just pick one person, and if that person loses, too bad. Ranked choice voting would allow us to have multiple parties. Say, to use the last election, if you voted for Jill Stein, you may have helped Donald Trump win because you didn't vote for his most likely opponent. If you voted for Jill Stein, you agree with Hillary Clinton like 90% of the time. If you saw like I Side With, various sites like that, or that showed the various political candidates on the grid, Jill Stein and Hillary Clinton were like so close. So that said, ranked choice voting would allow you to say, I want Jill Stein, and if she doesn't win, I want Hillary Clinton, and if she doesn't win, I want whoever else, McMullen or whatever. That way, if Jill Stein doesn't win, your vote goes to the next person, and it goes to the next person until, there's only two people, and whoever wins, wins. So ranked choice voting would allow more parties and more participation, because right now, the way it is, with our first past the post winner take all system, it is mathematically in your interest to vote for one of the two parties. If you vote for a third party, your vote may not have as much impact. So ranked choice voting would help alleviate that. So, yeah, I am definitely pro ranked choice voting. We've reached the 2-hour mark, but I'm still getting a ton of questions, and I don't really feel like stopping. So, I don't know how much longer we'll go. Maybe we'll see. I'm starting to lose my voice, though. So, 136. I got like 250 of these questions, and I feel obligated to try and answer as many of them as I can. What did you like most about your military service? What were your initial thoughts about serving? Okay, here, I'll answer this last one. That's the best. Did I experience some sort of disillusionment when you were deployed? Yes. Without a doubt, yes. When I was deployed, I did convoy security, and I realized that I was just protecting corporate interests. I was cheap security. I didn't personally feel like I was defending democracy or anything like that. I got there, and I kind of looked around and realized, like, I'm making significantly less than the private security guy who's on the same base. So I became somewhat disillusioned with that, and I was protecting KBR convoys. For any of you who were in the military or deployed or whatever, KBR. That's all I did. I protected KBR supply convoys between the Kuwaiti border and Nasiriyah, Iraq. So I felt very much like I was, I don't want to say hired goon. That's not necessarily, it wasn't that bad. But I definitely felt like I was being used and not for patriotic reasons. From Bishop Craig, serious question on military equipment. How awesome is the A-10? I wanted to be an A-10 pilot when I first enlisted, or when I like wanted to join the military. It is an awesome plane, and they've tried to get rid of it several times, but there's just nothing that compares. So, yeah. The A-10, by the way, for those of you who don't know, it's the really ugly. It's so ugly. It's a really ugly plane that is used for ground attack. So that's it. Will I make a gaming channel, a live stream Fallout 76? Probably not. I'm an education channel. I put out bi-weekly content, and I'll live stream like this on occasion. But I don't want to become a gaming channel. Like I said in the beginning, and I've said this multiple times, my private life is my private life, and then there's stuff I choose to put out to you guys. If I started gaming streaming, then that's kind of inviting you into my private life. So You know, people ask me, what's my name? Where do I live? Do I have a girlfriend? Whatever else. And that's all my private life, you know? So I'm going to keep that stuff to myself. And please, you know, like, try to respect that. I know there's a lot of YouTubers who more than who are more than happy to invite you into their homes and tell you everything there is to know about them. And that's just not me. There are plenty of those people for you to choose from if that's what you're after. From David, why didn't you join the Marines? Those were my two options: Army, Marines. I wanted to be combat oriented, and really what it came down to was Army ROTC offered me a scholarship while Navy ROTC did not. So that's that. Who runs America? The president or big business? Both. Both. Yeah, I don't know that there's a more in-depth way to answer that question. Have you considered doing a video on introverts, extroverts? Yes, I have. That's been on the list forever. What was it like in Iraq? Boring and hot and cold, actually. Yeah, it was boring most of the time, and then yeah, a lot of people don't realize this, that you know, it's like 150 during the day, so it's just crazy hot, and then at night it drops down to like 50, which isn't that cold here in America, but when it's 100-degree difference because there's no moisture in the air, it's freezing. So yeah. What's the difference between fascism and, I'm sorry, authoritarianism and all that? I made a video on that. The dirty words of economics. Was I stationed in Fort Stewart? No. I binged watched your videos the last couple weeks while I was on vacation. It's all boring stuff made interesting. Thanks for what you do. Thanks. Opinion on the free territory of Ukraine and revolutionary Catalonia and Rojava. I don't know what Rojava is. So, my opinion on Ukraine is that they're a independent country that deserves to remain independent. I don't agree with Russia annexing Crimea. Yeah. Catalonia, that's another, Catalonia is a independence movement in Spain, and if they want to be independent, then they should push for that. Maybe not violently. I don't know. Will I talk about political correctness? You know, oddly enough, that's probably a topic that I've also switched. You know, I used to be very anti, maybe not anti. I used to be of the mind that political correctness has gotten out of hand. And now I realize there's a place for it. And in certain cases, it's gotten out of hand. H3H3, they've made fun of political correctness when it should be made fun of. You know, the humongous guy, like, yeah. H3H3 does it when it's called for, but then I think also in an effort to make more content, he's expanded that. They have expanded that to blanket all political correctness. Political correctness has a place, and it's important, you know, in many regards. So no, I'm not going to make a video where I kind of trash on political correctness. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about that. It's been on the list for a long time. When I put it on the list, I was going to be like super anti-political correct, but my opinions have changed over the last 2 years, and I see its purpose now.
From Devin, ever think of making a video on wage stagnation? I've wanted to, um, and I think I might have talked about it a little bit in my economic systems video. Um, but yeah, that's a complicated issue because okay, so I had this discussion with my friend Donnie, um, where we don't see inflation happening. We all know it exists. It's about 2% every year, but we don't like take it into account. Um, 20 years ago, $100 was a lot of money to me. Today, $100 is a lot of money to me, even though with inflation, my views on how much $100 is should be changing, but it hasn't. In my head, $100 is $100. So when we say that minimum wage should be raised to $10 an hour, say, I'll stick with 10 for now. It's because $10 today is what $7 was in the 90s or whatever else. But our opinions on how much money that is hasn't changed. $10 is $10. It's way more than you should be making, even though with inflation, your opinions should change. So it's hard to convince someone that $10 today is what $7 was just 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Because people have a very short memory, I suppose. So it's tough. I would like to do a video on wage stagnation and inflation in general. So it's on the list. Friend of mine is getting deployed as an infantry machine gunner. What are his chances of things like PTSD and stuff like that? I don't know what the percentage chance of PTSD is. I will say PTSD happens even if you're not in combat. Yeah. Yeah. So his chances are higher than if he wasn't being deployed, but I'm not going to say that he's going to get PTSD. So be on the lookout for that. The hardest part of my deployment to Iraq was coming home, and this was a question I got in here somewhere. Like, what was the biggest shock about coming home? Something like that. And the biggest shock for me was I was just in Iraq, where I might get 3 hours of sleep a night. Conditions, the weather was terrible. The food, it was okay. It wasn't terrible. I won't say that it was terrible. It was okay, but I didn't have a lot of choice. I came from that, and I come back to America, where friends are complaining that they have to work an 8-hour shift today. And friends are complaining that they didn't get enough olives on their sandwich from Subway. And that was the hardest part for me, because it's like, do you realize how good you have it right now? Like, okay, what happens after your 8-hour shift? Oh, you get to go home? Well, so I hated all of my friends. And very few of my friends from back then are still my friends today. So that was the biggest thing. I came home and I'm looking around at all these people who are like, ugh, I gotta write a 2-page paper. Like, yeah, you do. Cry about it. Like, oh, it made me so mad. And it was kind of a culture shock to come back to real life, and everyone sucked. So, yeah. Okay, sorry. What's my opinion of nationalism and patriotism? Nationalism is dangerous. Patriotism, there's nothing wrong with patriotism. You can be proud of the country you're from. You shouldn't think that your country is infallible. America is not perfect. It's good, but it's not perfect, and we could help make it better. Nationalism, though, is bad. Nationalism comes together with several other ideas, superiority. Yeah, it's just a bad idea. Okay, you keep asking this question, so I'm gonna have to. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions that I have? Keep asking the same questions. Okay. What are your plans for the next few videos? Like I said, I'm doing a video on voting. That'll come out right before the election. I have a list of topics. Oh, people on the Reddit have been asking for sovereign citizens. I'll probably do that. Occupy Wall Street, people have asked for. Introversion, someone asked for that earlier. You know, I have plenty of ideas. You know, plenty. I don't know if you can read that. Yeah, okay, I can see it now. Alright. Yeah. I have ideas. I don't know necessarily what the order is going to be, but yeah. Do I know the channel Extra History? If so, what's my opinion? Yeah, I know of them. They don't, like, I'm not on conversational basis with them, and I like them. They seem, you know, their videos are well produced. Okay, here's a good one from Khan. Any chance of a fact correction episode? I have thought of doing a video correcting past mistakes. I flipped East and West Florida. I said that the British were from Brittany rather than they went to Brittany. Stuff like that. I've thought about doing that, but then I kind of dropped the idea because those videos never do well from what I've seen of other people. And it's not like everyone would watch it. I'll still get the comments in the bottom telling me that that it wasn't LBJ who was president 40 years ago. It was Ford, I think. I'll always get those comments. So what's the point in making a corrections video? What's your favorite Bill Wirtz video? Okay. Here, I'm going to talk about Bill Wirtz for a second because a lot of people seem to think I hate him. I don't. I like Bill Wirtz. His history of Japan and his history of the entire world are great. What I don't like is how he kind of skipped over the rape of Van King. And when he was called out on that, he added it in as an annotation and made a joke out of it. So that's the only part that I don't like. Everything else, I thought the video was fantastic. Now, a lot of people have also told me, like, it's just a comedy video. It's not meant to be taken seriously. And I disagree with you on that. He went through the effort of mapping every single rice kingdom from 2,000 years ago. So why couldn't he mention the rape of Nanking? Like, you don't get to... I mean, you can, right? But I'm allowed to criticize the video. And the fact that it's a funny video doesn't make it immune from criticism, if you get what I mean. I can still criticize the video and like it, you know? I can criticize The Last Jedi and still like it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna... Yeah. I like Bill Wirtz. I like his videos. They're entertaining and full of lots of little jokes that you can watch it 10 times and each time you'll see something new. So, I like it. But I can criticize it at the same time. So, here's some money for no reason other than I find your content valuable. Thanks, Johnny. Johnny Gadfly, appreciate that. In your voting video coming out, are you going to talk about ways people can get more informed on local elections since they are naturally low information races? I could do that, yeah. In my video on the political party switch, Professor Politics talks about that a little bit. How people tend to vote just straight ticket on local races because they don't know enough. And I've said this several times as well. You don't have to vote for everything. You can leave stuff blank. So if you don't know, don't flip a coin. That's the worst thing you could do, is flipping a coin. Just above picking someone because their name sounds nice. Don't do that either. I'd rather you didn't vote. So in my list of preferences, I'd rather you were informed on the issues and voted for who you thought would do a good job. Next, leave it blank. And then below that is their name sounds nice, or writing in Mickey Mouse. Like, you're just wasting time then. Don't do that. Vote for who you believe in. Is there an echo? Is it like real bad? Someone asked, why is there an echo? It might be because the walls of this room are brick, which is why I don't film in this room either. So it has an echo. Sorry. Just wanted to say thank you because your 13 Reasons Why video was what pushed me to go get help. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Emmanuel, and I'm glad that happened. Wow. So the 13 Reasons Why video, I hate that show so much. So many people were talking about it, so I watched it, and it made me so angry that I made that video. But also, the 13 Reasons Why video gave me a reason to talk about kind of basic psychology stuff. Like, I never would have made a video on the peripheral nervous system or fight or flight just because. But since it was in the show, I talked about it. Is YouTube and Patreon your main source of income now? Yes. And yes, I did quit my day job. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm repeating myself, so I'm going to say I'm going to wrap this up in like 10 minutes. So if you have any like burning questions, now would be the time to ask. Did I play any sports in high school? I was on the rifle team. I was a competitive shooter, and I was in the Army as well. I was part of the, anyway. So yeah, I don't hate guns. I shot competitively in matches. You know, I was a target shooter. You know, so did I play? I played soccer in junior high and elementary school, but once I got to high school, JROTC was my life. So, oops. Do you seriously like The Last Jedi? I don't hate The Last Jedi the way that many others did. You know, every video you look up on YouTube was about how terrible it was, and I don't think it was terrible. It wasn't the best. There are certainly parts of The Last Jedi, Last Jedi that I don't like. I don't, spoilers, I don't like that Leia Mary Poppins her way back into the ship. She should have died right then, especially given what happened in real life. They should have just gone back and changed it so that she died right there. But I can watch The Last Jedi, enjoy it, and be like, oh, that part sucked, and still enjoy it. I can have criticisms of The Last Jedi and still like it. I didn't think it was terrible. Same for Solo, actually. I saw that one. I didn't hate it. It wasn't great, but I didn't hate it. I'm not going to make an angry video about the new Star Wars movies. They're fine. They're better than the prequels, for sure. Would I rather fight a bear-sized bee or a hive full of bee-sized bears? I would much rather fight the bee-sized bears. 10 times out of 10. A bee the size of a bear would kill me, for sure. So, no thank you. Do Europe and the USA have a future as allies if Trump presidents are the future norm for the US? That's a hard question. Trump is doing damage to our alliances. I think that's clear. Even if you like Trump, he's doing damage to our alliances. Canada and the U.S. used to be best friends, and now we're like bickering with each other, which is just insane. So it's certainly gonna hurt if we don't get someone who's a little more moderate. Super random. What brand is your water bottle? Bubba, I guess. I got it from Walmart for like $7. Weird question. Okay. Will the US and Europe... Okay, I answered that question, and then you paid to ask it again. So, thank you. Okay, people ask this quite a few times. What's my opinion on Sam Harris? I think he's kind of a jerk. Same with Elon Musk, right? Like as a public personality, he's a jerk. They're both smart guys who deserve credit for what they're doing, but they're kind of jerks. So, yeah, that's my opinion on him. Thank you for the straight donation, Will Moses. Okay, straight razor. These questions, you guys. Okay, I use a cartridge razor. Are there any props for movies or games that you really want? If I could get like a actual Fallout combat armor set, that would make my life very happy. Okay. What are my predictions for the midterms? Okay, that's a good question. I think the Democrat vote is going to be brought out in a way that it hasn't been in the midterms in decades. So maybe the Democrats might pick up some seats that might otherwise not have been picked up. Thank you. No, there's no way I'm going to pronounce that correctly. Thank you for the donation. Okay. Would you be suspicious if a red wave happened? Okay, well, first of all, it can't be a red wave because the Republicans are already in charge. So they wouldn't be a red wave. At best, the Republicans are going to stay where they are. I don't think it's going to get bigger. I don't think they're going to take over any seats. I think they're either going to stay where they are or the Democrats are going to sweep. I just came through Hurricane Michael. Do you think global warming is making storms worse? I don't think that. That's pretty much a scientific fact. Global warming is real. Climate change is real. These are happening. And we're going to have to do something about it. Even if you don't think humans are causing it, which, fine, I disagree with you, but fine. We have to do something to change the current course of events because it's going to get much worse. Have I seen the ads about impeaching Trump? No, I haven't, I guess. What do I think, though? I mean, I'm gonna wait for the results on the Mueller investigation. I don't think it's a witch hunt. If it is a witch hunt, then witches exist because he's gotten what, a dozen convictions already. There's something there. I don't know the fullest extent of it, but I'm gonna wait to find out. Have you considered doing a video on on healthcare issues and reform, possibly in the vein of the Moderates Guide? Possibly. I'd have to work with someone else on that one. Chubby Emu, hit me up. I don't care who wins the World Series. Will I participate in No Shave November? I will say this is a result of No Shave November like 3 years ago. I used to be clean shaven all the time, but then I let it grow, and several people told me I should keep it, so I did. Will I this November? I don't know, because I have an image to maintain. So, and I hate it. I hate it when it gets too long. Like, it feels like my face is dirty. Even like as soon as I get out of the shower, I'm like, oh, it's gross. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'll just let it go for the entire month. Do I know who Destiny is? Yes, I know who he is. I don't, and I subscribe to him, but I don't know that he knows who I am. I'd be interested to know if he does. But I like him a lot, and he's a good debater. So yeah, I like him a lot. So I'm not gonna do a video on climate change and global warming because it's a topic that I think has been done quite a bit already. Okay, all right. So I told myself I was gonna do it for another 30 minutes, and it has been that long. So I'm sorry if I didn't get to your questions from the survey. The chat was going much more than I expected it would be. It looks like I might have had over 1,000 people watching, maybe, which is insane. I've never had numbers like that. So I don't know when the next live stream will be. Definitely for like the State of the Union. I will definitely do a live stream for that, as I have in the past. I don't know how often these like let's just talk live streams will be, but I might do them more often. So I very much appreciate all of you who came and watched and asked questions and of course donated. So thank you all for that. And yeah, hope you guys stick around for the next video. Oh, okay. This stream will be up in its entirety for people to watch in the future as well. So there's that. I should have said that from the beginning. But have a good rest of your Sunday and Halloween if you're into that stuff. And bye.